Hi everybody, this is Jeff. Before the video begins that you're about to see, which is my AI research stack, it's how I use AI tools to begin research for a paper or an article or a video I want to do, I just wanted to present this disclaimer. Be aware that if you're using AI tools and you're using free versions, and even if you're using lower tiered paid versions of the tools, that the companies might be using your data to train their models. So be aware of that. The other thing you should be aware of is make sure you have the right permissions or you're not violating terms of service when you upload things into those tools. So if you're uploading studies, if you're uploading papers, make sure that you are aware of the implications of doing that both legally and ethically so you can remain an ethical user of these tools. All right, with that said, I hope you enjoy the video.
Hi everybody, this is Jeff Strauss. I'm the founder of the Leadership Bootcamp, and I study organizational culture, employee well-being, and leadership behavior, and I'm a doctoral student at the University of Southern California, where I study organizational leadership and change. I thought what would be an interesting video today is to talk about my process when I start researching a topic. A couple of my classmates have asked me about what my process is. A couple of my colleagues have also asked. And so I thought that if you're somebody who likes to do recreational research on a topic or you're a student and you're looking for some assistance with how you begin your research, you might find this video useful, and I hope you do. And so it'll be short. I'm going to go through a couple of tools that I use. These are not the only tools out there for this purpose. These are the tools that I use. I like these, and if you find another one that you like that serves the purpose, by all means use that. I will also say that I'm not affiliated with any of these products. These are just products that I enjoy using and I evangelize. Okay, well, let's begin. So one tool that a friend of mine told me about is a tool called Elicit. So I'll share my screen and I'll show you what it looks like. And keep in mind, I pay for these, as I mentioned, but I'm unaffiliated with these products. So this is a tool called Elicit, and Elicit is essentially an AI-powered research assistant, and it can do a lot of stuff. But let's say I have a research question that I'm interested in. What are the effects of creatine on sleep-deprived people? So a new feature of Elicit that came out the last several weeks is evaluating the strength of the research question. So I can do a lot of other things too. I can create, it'll do these things for me, right? What do I want my population to be? What do I want my controls to be? What are my outcomes? So I'm just going to keep it the same here. But I could start to improve the research question, but it's already telling me I did a good job. So I'm going to use this, make it a question, and I'm going to let it rip. And so I have a couple of options here. I have, I pay for this as well. So I'm only going to screen the top 50 papers, but you can see how rigorous this can be depending on what your selection is. So I'm just going to screen the top 50. So it does a lot of really cool things. First, this is a much more advanced version than even what existed maybe 2 months ago. There's so much more capability now, but you're seeing what Elicit is doing step by step, right? So it's gathering papers, it's screening papers, it does an analysis, it does a whole bunch of criteria matching. You can modify all of those filters to make Elicit more rigorous or less rigorous depending on what you want. And so it does all these sort of criteria matches. It tells you how long it's going. It looks like it's going to take, oh, there we go. It's jumping up. I didn't want it to take too long, but you'll see what happens. I'll speed this video up a little bit if I must. Right, so now you can see Elicit is extracting data, capturing key metrics, and extracting some of the findings. As with any AI tool, you want to obviously validate the findings that come out from the AI. But what's really cool here is, unlike another AI tool that's out there, like ChatGPT, for example, or NotebookLM, which is one of the ones I'll talk about, Elicit is tuned for this type of service. It's tuned for research. So all you're getting, as you can see, this is There's not like an empty prompt window that's asking you to type something like, what's your message today, right? It's guiding you through the process of creating good research questions, determining your level of rigor for what you want to extract from the studies. So it does a lot for you there. So here you can see it's starting to extract data from these studies, and you'll see what happens when it's output. It looks like there's going to be a couple more minutes here, so I'm going to let it run, and then I'm going to speed up this section of video. Okay, so we can see that it's wrapping up. It took a little bit longer than 3 minutes, and this is the last step. It's generating a report. Okay, so it looks like the report is complete and has been generated. And so here's the research question. What are the effects of creatine on sleep-deprived people? It gives you a summary and an abstract with citations. So I can click on any number of these and go right to the citation. See it right here. And the nice thing is that it shows me characteristics of the included studies. So I can see in here, let me expand this a little bit. So I can see in here all kinds of interesting things cited for me. And then if I scroll down, right, another number of other summaries as well, and I can click on the paper sources and find out a lot more about these by clicking on each of the papers. So I click here, I can go to the source, I'm able to actually download it. So I'm going to download this, and I'm going to show you the downloading is important for my next step. So I'm going to go back to Elicit, and let's try to grab another one. Here's another one. Let's go to this. Let's do this, and it's letting me download it right from here. So great. So I have 2 studies, very important for our next step. So that's Elicit. It's just sort of this amazing search for research on steroids. So great tool. Highly recommend you support the team at Elicit. Okay. So I have 2 studies that I've downloaded from Elicit. Now let's move on to our next phase of research. Now, I particularly like to read research papers. And I encourage anybody who's a student to actually read research papers. It's actually very enlightening as a process. However, if you're reading a dozen research papers, 8 research papers for a particular project, it can be really helpful to have a second brain help you make associations between all of that work and even what's dissonant about that work. And that's where I find some other interesting capabilities come from the use of AI. So let me show you my next step. My next step here is using ChatGPT. And again, if you're a Gemini person, use Gemini. I like ChatGPT because it seems to perform better in research. So I prefer it. There's a number of different models. I'm on O3 right now. We'll see if O3 can actually do what I want it to do. So here, I'm not going to go into the process of creating a GPT. So I might go into that process because I actually do have a couple of research GPTs that I've created, but suffice to say that the default screen here works just fine for the purposes of this example. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 studies, I'm going to upload them, and let's pretend that these are 2 of many, but this is just an example. I don't do this all the time, but it's quite helpful. The question I'll ask is, find me, this is just an example again, 3 areas where the research agrees, and 3 areas where there is disagreement or unresolved questions. And so it's going to do its thing. This should only take a second. And I ask this question a lot, actually. So if I have something that's really helpful for any of my colleagues, or if you work out there and you're remote, something that I've done in the past is I've taken meeting transcripts or recordings. If it's a recording, I usually go to another tool to transcribe it into the transcript. But you take a meeting transcript, you run it through ChatGPT and say, hey, find me all of the areas where we disagree. So it's a little bit more than some of the AI agents that are built into those tools now, where it's like, let me detect an action item, and I'll take an action item or schedule something on your calendar. Those are great, super helpful. But if you really want to dig into a discussion, if you're in a 90-minute or 2-hour meeting and there's opinions flying back and forth, and think people are brainstorming, etc., it's great to have a note taker there, but it's really, really helpful to ask a question like this of ChatGPT or your other preferred tool, because you can derive really, really good insights into some of those conversations. I've used that for quite a while now, that strategy. And then I thought, oh, let me apply it to all these studies and run them through ChatGPT and say, can you find me areas where there's agreement, disagreement? So here it gives me where the literature lines up, right? We find some themes here where the picture is still cloudy. And so, of course, with any AI tool, you want to validate these findings. I would never copy paste this into a paper or anywhere where I have to have credibility, right? You always want to double check. The other thing that you can do, you can actually instruct it, like cite specifically where you find this, right? And then it gives you a little bit more clarity and detail there. So at least as a starting point, you can sort of dive into the marker that it's giving you and continue your research. And let's show you the next tool. So thus far, we have discussed Elicit, which I use as a starting point to find great research. And then ChatGPT, which acts as like a second brain or almost a research assistant, where I can tell it, hey, do these things on this data and spit it back out to me. And I use that as a further jumping off point. Now here's the last one I use, called NotebookLM. I'm going to show it to you now. A couple projects in here already from earlier this year. I started another project here. I'll show you what it looks like from the very beginning. So NotebookLM is a Google product. You go to notebooklm.google.com. You log right in with your Google account. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. I'm going to upload a source. Okay, so I'm just dragging in one of the files that I just dragged into ChatGPT. It's the same study. And you'll see what happens here. NotebookLM does a couple of really cool things. So similar to ChatGPT, you can interact with the data. So you can start asking the agent questions and get some responses from it. You can also do a couple of things like mind map and add notes. But here's the really cool part, okay? This is something I love so much. If you go over here and do the audio overview, here's a couple more details about the audio overview. It outputs a file that sounds just like a podcast. You can see here, it gives you a prompt to help specify what you want to focus on from the data. But this is so cool. So if I click here, you'll never understand it unless you hear it. It's so fascinating to me. So I'm going to create an audio overview of the study that I just uploaded into NotebookLM. And this is going to take a little bit, so I'll cut this part out as well. But you're going to love this. If you're a person that's on the go, if you're in a car and you're commuting, if you work out and you want to listen to a study while you're working out, this is such a fascinating and interesting format that they came up with. I absolutely love it, and I think you're going to love it too. So I'm going to let this roll. Okay, so we're back. I'm this finished, and you are going to love this. All right, so it's done this audio overview. Now let's listen to what it sounds like when you actually listen to this study in the format of a podcast.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on creatine supplementation. It's really talked about, a tool for anyone looking to get more out of their exercise and sports.
Exactly. Yeah, you hear a lot about creatine, and well, we're here to explore what the science actually says, maybe strip away some of the hype.
Okay, good. So for anyone tuning in who might not be, totally up to speed, what exactly is creatine?
Simply put, creatine is an amino acid. It's naturally present right there in your muscles. Think of it as a key player in how your body produces energy for those quick, powerful movements.
Right, quick energy.
Listen to that. I mean, I love listening to podcasts as an educational format. Audiobooks do not work with me. I cannot read an audiobook. If I just lose my focus for a brief moment, I will, it'll be 10 minutes later and I have no idea what's happened. So audiobooks really don't work for me. I like to read, and I can read on screen, I can read on a Kindle, and I read physical books, but podcasts as a format really work for me. The conversational style, for some reason, I'm sure there's a reason for this, might be a good research question. I'm sure there's a reason why that format of people speaking, I'm able to pay attention to a lot easier with dialogue than with monologue. So you heard how that happened. I mean, it sounds just like two real people talking. And I've listened to a number of studies in that podcast format. And while it doesn't suit my need 100%, this is so great for reinforcement, right? Like if I have a study that I'm struggling to digest and I create a thing like this, as long as the information is accurate, and again, it can hallucinate, but as long as the information is accurate, it's such a great reinforcer of concepts. If you can learn via that format of podcast, and it's so convenient because you can listen to it anywhere, right? This is such a great tool. So that is the beginning of my research stack there. I start with Elicit, where I ask my research question, I get feedback on my research question, I can tune it, and then I find research related to it, and obviously I have to vet that research, etc. But it's a great starting point. Then to really deep dive into a large body of research, I'll use ChatGPT as like a second brain, and do all these rapid things for me that are highly complex in just minutes, where it would have taken me hours and hours or days. And then finally, NotebookLM, where I can do things like add notes to data, and get this really cool audio overview, and interact with the data in different ways as well. So just 3 really cool tools that I like to use, and I hope you found this useful. And if you did, maybe comment on the video and tell me what you use for your research. Subscribe to the channel if you find this useful. Please feel free to share this on your social media platforms. Your support really means a lot. Thank you.